This is, wait a second here, I don't have my, this is Keith, your happy healer, and what I'm going to be doing is coming on live all throughout this election season. We have 9 p.m., we're live, but we come live throughout whenever there's a good point to discuss something that we are all dealing with or that's important to our lives, or the inspiration is right to get a message across. The time is right then to go live and to share some of these things. And right now I was just watching a news story by NBC, and I want you to listen to this with me here. Well, actually, this is by Fox News. Listen here.
Last night during the second round of presidential debates.
Healthcare, in my view, is a human right. And we have got to pass a Medicare for all single-payer system.
Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Yeah. All right.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
You cannot let people who are sick, no matter where they come from, no matter what their status, go uncovered. You can't do that.
I will release children from cages. I will get rid of the private detention centers.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation. If someone is here without documents and that is their only offense, is that person to be deported?
No. That person can be a part of this great American experience.
I don't even call it climate change. It's a climate crisis.
The old ways are no longer relevant. The scientists tell us we have 12...
Okay, let me tell you what's happening. What's happening here, folks, is they're essentially, every last one of them are saying that people come across the border, it's okay. And then after they come across the border, they also can get health care and all these benefits. Americans, by and large, are not going to accept that. That's a fact. One reason, yet again, that your happy healer, Keith Landy, is the only viable Democratic candidate that can, A, beat Trump, but also bring about so many amazing, great changes that we all need. That's what this is about. All right, listen.
Years before there is irreparable damage to this planet. This is a global issue.
The 2020 contenders facing criticism from both sides for isolating the majority of voters with their slate of progressive policies, leaving many to declare President Trump as the winner. Check out this headline from NBC News. The winner of the first Democratic debate, Donald Trump. And here's the New York Post, headline slamming Democrats with this cover, "Who wants to lose the election?" Even Trump's harsh...
Who wants to lose the election? That's what I'm asking my Democratic brothers and my Democratic sisters. It would be so shameful that if we lost only simply because so many were unwilling to see what was truly possible, that at this moment, if we had looked at the truth as it really is in front of us, the struggles people are really facing, like with the drug epidemic, like with the healthcare, people dying in the street, and that we were honest with ourselves, that people are in a life of despair, and that they're continued working all the time and every day and never getting anywhere is just not enough for them, that they deserve better. It's so true, and they know that, and they're tired of the same old answers, and people are so worked up. So here's what's happening, and we can see it. It's right here. Who wants to lose the election? It's the quickest race to see who can appeal to the loudest aspect of the Democratic Party, all the while ignoring the moderate voice in the party. And that moderate voice is a common sense voice. Now, here's the greatest aspect of my candidacy for the Democrats. Because all of these candidates, while they promise what you want, which is the health care for all, which is the income for all, which is all these great things that really we should have, none of them can get it to you because, for one, they're going to lose the election. But even if they were able to win the election, they'll never give you the unity to make any of that stuff true. So then what is it that they're really after? That's the $1 million question. I suspect they have very, very large interest groups that they're serving, and that those same interests are not aligned with yours and mine. That's why I'm running. It's a very common sense approach towards our problems, and that I'm genuine in it. And if that's not enough for the American people, then good people can't step up and do that and be honest and have an honest approach about it. Then I think it's not a good thing for our democracy. And also, I think every person who comes across my candidacy would have to then talk to themselves about whether they're honestly even open for that kind of thing. And then what comes out of that realization is the kind of government that you have is one you deserve. The problems that you're dealing with, they're problems you've had for a very long time, aren't they? And you're not changing anything. Well, they call me crazy, and in an upside-down world, I must look crazy, right? And since you can agree that the world is pretty upside down, why don't you try and just take a listen to what your happy healer has to say, because I am the happy healer, and I work off of love. That's why my clarity is so clear. My love gets me to truth, and truth is so critical to be successful in life. And it's okay, because I've always went into it with love. It was never about not having love. People want perfection. That's where they go wrong. Well, in your search for perfection, you got so far from it, didn't you? Instead of getting perfection, you got a perfect liar. But in me, you just have your genuine happy healer who loves, and I don't want to be a perfect candidate. I knew from the get-go that love was the way, and that had we from the beginning, instead of looking for that perfect candidate, instead we had just gone towards the love, we'd be so much more better off today, because we never needed a perfect candidate. It was the love that we needed in the first place. And it was the love that was missing. And it's that love that makes you perfect. And that's what people are missing. And so that's the basis of my candidacy. And it just rings so true every time I turn the TV on. Every time I look at what these other guys are saying. It's so clear that I should be in this race because of the person I am. Because of the unique gifts that I have from our Creator that I can pass on to the American people. If they have the courage to open their ears, to open their hearts, and to listen to truth, and to allow that truth to become a reality. I'm a 40-year-old man, though I look much younger. I think a lot of us would, if we just realized what was important. As a happy healer, I really do focus on the love. Perhaps love itself has a strength that keeps us younger. Perhaps there's so much truth in life that we just miss all the time. And as your happy healer for president, the side benefit to supporting your happy healer is you're always going to get this kind of inspiration. This is the stuff I'm made of. It's why I feel so prepared for this job. None of these guys are made of anything that is selfless, that is ready to do higher purpose work, that is truly committed and smart and intelligent in the moment because they are clear, that their motives are clear, that they are not being greedy in their motives. That will change their ability to get the work done for the people. And I know you know this is true. So if we're capable in our own hearts of getting behind people that we can say, hey, I know that sounds like the truth, but then you still can't get behind that person, then you just, once again, have to look in a mirror and have a self-check. That's right. Because it shouldn't have to take an army of people to do what's right for you, personally, to do what is right. Because that is how a movement grows, you see. And if you don't do it, then the next person doesn't do it either. And you're automatically going to have to assume that everybody else is not going to do it. That's how I show up. That's why I stay steadfast and true to the cause. Because I'm working for a higher power and for higher purpose living. And I don't want to get your insecurities and let them get into my life. And I don't want your insecurities to infect my goals. So why don't you shed those insecurities and go ahead and get on the ride of what you know is right and what you know would improve your life, and let's all raise together then, instead of being hard-headed about it just because there's not a million other people on board. And that's the way that works. And a lot of people have a hard time being that first person, but in truth and in fact, that when you are that first person, you are being a self-thinker. You are able to do what many others are not, and that is to think for yourself and to make your own choice. That choice empowers you, and that truth empowers you, and that love makes you happy, and together we go to a happier place. That's what we're working for ultimately in this campaign. That's why I'm running, because I know that together we can actually bring Republicans and Democrats, that's to say people that are just so religious and that love God. I have such a connection with them, and I share that love, and I understand progressives. And for so long we've been promised this future, this technological age that never came. And what promise came with that instead was just more disparity and suffering. I understand your plight, I hear your plight, and I am working for you too. And I get you, and I love you, and I love everyone. I don't want to have to pick sides. We are all Americans, and we all matter. That is my message. So, who wants to lose the election? Not me. Not me. I do not want to lose this election. I assure you of that. I will not be losing this election if I am your next candidate for the Democratic nomination. And I will go on to win Trump and to bring this country to great new heights like never before we have ever seen. That is why I'm in the race. Much, much, much different ambitions, motives, the entire reason for running. So different than those other condescending, which is what they are. And so that's just what I call them, condescending candidates. And right now, they all have their favorite condescending candidate too, don't they? Just like Mayor Pete. He's someone's favorite on the show here that we were watching earlier. And I just don't understand. Well, we'll have to just see it for what it is and say this guy is pompous. He can't even handle when somebody is standing in front of him looking for answers for grave situations that is happening in the city he currently runs. How would he ever be able to do that as president of the United States? If you can't take and console somebody and bring them in and tell them about the larger issues we're all having and about how we can come together and rise above those, and that's what makes us better as Americans, and that we can rely on each other in ways that we have never done before, and that we should all shoot and strive for that, and that's what brings rising tides together up to new levels, then we know we're winning. And until he can do that, then all he is to me is just pompous Pete, not Mayor Pete. The guy's not qualified. He don't belong to be your president. Let's take a look a bit more at this stuff from last night.
Democrats with this cover, who wants to lose the election? Even Trump's harshest critics are dismayed at the performances. Take, for example, David Brooks, who said this in a New York Times op-ed. The party seems to think it can win without any of the 35% of us in the moderate camp, the ones who actually delivered the 2018 midterm win. The progressive narrative is dominating in part because progressives these days have a direct and forceful story to tell and no interest in compromising it. It's dominating because no moderate wants to bear the brunt of progressive fury by opposing it. And here's Joe Scarborough looking absolutely distraught with the Democratic field.
Last night was a disaster for the Democratic Party. It is a position of every Democrat on that stage that illegal immigrants, if they cross the border illegally, should get health care for life. It is then the position of every Democrat on that stage that if they cross the border illegally, It's not even illegal anymore. But that loses Wisconsin, that loses Pennsylvania, that loses Florida, that loses North Carolina, it may lose Virginia.
And, of course, the president himself didn't miss an opportunity to pounce on his rivals from the G20 summit in Japan.
I've been watching the debates a little bit in between meetings, and I wasn't impressed. But when you look at the socialism and you look at what it can do, that's what you're talking about there. And that's become like the Socialist Party. In fact, I heard there's a rumor the Democrats are going to change the name of the party from the Democrat Party to the Socialist Party. I'm hearing that, but let's see if they do it.
All right, Dana, did the Democrats commit political suicide the last 2 nights?
Well, there are 9 more debates and I think 31 weeks before the first voting takes place at the Iowa caucuses.
Listen to this part. This is important for me. I mean, listen, folks. This is where they're talking about what is going to happen next, what we all have to really do and focus on. We still have 9 debates left. Your happy healer has plenty of time to step up. You've got to believe in that. You have to know that. I do. I believe in it. I know it. I'm living it. Let's just stay steady. Keep our eyes on the ball.
So I would say that if this past 2 days didn't feel too good for the Democrats, they've got some opportunities. But it's hard to make a first impression over and over again and to change people's minds. I do think that they narrowed down the field a little bit over the last 2 nights, and so I think they probably have a plausible 6 out of the 20 that were on stage. Now, there are a couple who were not on stage that will be on the next stage, like Governor Steve Bullock of Montana. I think some of these candidates will find it very hard to keep up the pretense that they have a full-time campaign that is operational. This idea that anyone can win after these last 2 nights, I think that goes away.
Who do you think your top 6 are after these 2
I
debates?
haven't written down my top 6, but I think they're obvious.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and stop it right there because I'm going to bring you back in. And you hear what they're saying, and I'm just hearing it with you. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really agree. I see them as having their own agenda. I am knowing what both parties have really done. I am your people's candidate. I earned that title. I know that title. I understand what it is. I'm so different than just what a Republican is, so different than just what a Democrat is. I am just doing what is right for humanity and what is right for the Americans that I see every day in my life. I am adding up the facts and seeing the truth, and I am espousing that truth as clearly as I possibly can so others can also see that truth. And then we take this campaign right on and we continue. I'm ready to do what's right because nobody else possesses this knowledge that's going to take us to the promised land. That's really the reason why for so long when I've ran businesses, a lot of the times I would want to do the things that made the most sense to bring the highest amount of happiness per each person involved. It was really a challenge for me to do that. And it's a challenge for everybody. I'm not the only person that tries to look for the best situation out of a given predicament. And a lot of business owners do that. And it's hard to really do for yourself, do for your business, and do for your employees in a way that's beneficial. You see that there's monopolies that exist in America. There's always things that keep small business owners back, and they're always in this fear that they can never actually really break through. So they're always just a bit scared, always worried and clamoring about the taxes. That's their great big lie, folks. That's how they get ordinary Americans to work to get those big, huge corporations, those great, big, huge tax deals that makes it impossible for us to get this great new spiritual world we all have been promised for so long, and it has been negated, and those promises are broken. But as long as the people, and by the people we mean the religious people that love God like me, and the gay people also like me, and the Democrats like me, that's why I'm so uniquely positioned to run. And so that we all come together in that we love and get this job done. And then we'll have that stuff. But because they put us in such a predicament where we're all at each other's throats, and because we fall for that each and every time, the dream keeps on getting further away from us. instead of closer. So that's what I'm running for. I'm running for a better tomorrow. I'm running because you matter, and I'm running for a life worth living. We owe it to ourselves to have a life worth living. And don't let anybody tell you that that's not a goal worth having. And nor don't let anybody tell you that these goals are too high or too mighty, because they are nothing short of than just what is just right and what has been earned by American ingenuity, by American exceptionalism. We have been in this age now for the last almost 20 years. It'll be 21 years by the time I take office. And if you look at the fact that 20 years has gone by and we have never delivered on the American dream for the people, that their ingenuity has given this country to sit at this precipice, 25% of the global economy, yet 5% of the global population, with technology working for virtually making billionaires, more and more money, like you have Elon Musk, and there's just so many stories like that, while ordinary Americans continue to suffer and be without. They lose their health care and they die. It's just not right. These are the people who have been dying for so long. They're the people whose ingenuity has went into building the discoveries that has made these billionaires. Now it's on them to let go of some of that and allow this great new spiritual age, this world that has been denied us, to finally come in. That is what we're working for. That is what the goal is. That's where we're headed towards. And that is quite simple how we do that. Healthcare for all. You have to do it. You have to get people covered. And you have to be honest about the human value. You have to say that humanity matters, so we have to talk about abortion, but only to the extent to say, in this world, you cannot solve abortion the way it exists, because it's a bad world. It's not a fair world. It's not where the world exists where people can actually get by and have a great life. You can't, not even in America, but yet America owes it to its citizens to become that place, because it can. And it has the ingenuity to be such a nurturing place to its citizens. It has that richness. It has the riches. And it could even be more rich and more powerful. Because when you raise the spirits of a people, you raise the value of a nation. That's right. The American spirit itself is dead, and people are just at each other's throats. They're just so about the wrong things. If you are in the market for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you just know how true it is that it's hard to find great people. It is so hard to find great people. And so that's what I talk about, the need to come back to our humanity, the need to get back to love, and to know that the reason we're doing it is a righteous one, and that we do it because we must. We don't even have a choice. So if we don't do it, other people are already doing it, like China. We stand to lose in this great new battle of the new world. Trust me, everybody sees it. It's been happening in nature all around us. We can see it. It's just easy to see because it's the technological developments we see coming around everywhere. It's just exploding all around us. So it's hard not to see. And not to mention, there are a class of people that are seeing so much of the things that people have become blind to. And they are largely your moderates. They're people who are just loving. They don't judge. And they could just see the error on all sides. They can see the error in the system. And those are good people, and you're running them out of the room. I am one such person, and I have clarity, and that's why I'm running. So a lot of this ties together. The story goes on, and so that's always been the story of the Happy Healer. The Happy Healer started out a special story, and is always going to be a special one for me. And I take it with me everywhere I go because I know that the life-saving power it has. That's right. And that's the story of Keith Landy. That's why I'm qualified to be your next president of the United States, because we're going to handle these problems like nobody ever could. They don't have the skill. They don't have the know-how. They simply don't have the knowledge. And they don't have the foresight, therefore. They don't have the wisdom, therefore. They couldn't possibly equate what to do, even if they were good at mathematics or good problem solvers, because they allow themselves to be fooled. They allow themselves to be triggered. And that's where I said, and I started by saying that love matters and almost fixes all things. Love gives you clarity. And when you have love and live your life with love, you're not so quick to justify doing bad things. And so you change yourself and you change your ways. Your clarity becomes even more clear. And that when you see bad things happening, you say it. That's a bad thing. You don't just go along for the ride to get along. And so that you're affected by those things. And that, that actually means something to you. To have to do something about that. That's why I ask you to get involved in this campaign right now, too. Because it's so easy to be the guy that just goes on continuously over and over and over again, looking at all the things we talk about, which are just, there's so many of them. They're deep elements. And sometimes even my own mind, if you take this journey with me, you've seen just how deep it gets. In my own mind, I see how deep it gets. In all of our own minds, that's where perception exists. Indeed, reality itself was built from our own imagination. We must never forget or discount the complexity of the human soul. That's what I'm going to tell you on that. Because we have so many problems. And when someone is truly looking at how deep all of these problems are and the elements that encompass these problems, that you are not just one linear thinker. You have many different levels, many different elements, many different associations you're making, and you find yourself in different levels at different times thinking about different solutions. There's multiple truths, and I talk about that. The tell of two stories, and I talk about that. And so a lot of things come into mind when you're just thinking about the right thing to do and making a judgment call. And when you have that clarity, which goes back to where we were, it actually makes these judgment calls so much easier, so much quicker, and you get them right more often. And that's why I'm running. Just it's sound judgment. And God has given me the ability to look at things clearly. When I see so many other people get triggered, it blinds them. I see their blindness. That's right. I see their blindness, and I also see them reacting to things based on other people with nefarious purposes, purposely ticking them off and making them take action. And like robots almost, they take action every time. And they're so serious. They're like me, very genuine, except for they're blind. And I care for them and I love them. And I'm sorry that this is what America has become in 2019. And so many of us are sorry that this is what America has become in 2019. So we clamor to hope and we wish and pray. And we do all we can to make change a reality. And sometimes that change is misguided. I say, folks, the most dangerous thing we have going on today is the level of ignorant people who are so loud and so ignorant. They're not bad people, and it's not even their fault. It's so scary. That's one of the scariest things, because it's those people that can take us all right into a war, right off the cliff. And so that's why I'm running, because I see the danger in that. And I know that alternatively, these conditions could also bring about a great new change. And so I'm smart. That's why I'm running. Okay, folks, we're going to end it on that note. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9 always, and every opportunity in between when we're feeling inspired to come on, when I feel the moment is right and that the inspiration from our divine is coming in strong. You will see your happy healer. God bless you, and good night.